At a time when all of us are thinking hard about how to keep our orgs secure, data visibility remains a huge focus. And in Salesforce, sharing rules are one of the best ways for an admin to handle user security. In this video, we'll cover what Salesforce sharing rules are, when and how to use them, and how to create and manage them effectively. Whether you're new to Salesforce security or refining your sharing model, this step-by-step guide will help you understand and implement sharing rules with confidence. No security risks here. Salesforce sharing rules allow you to open up record access to certain users without having to restructure your role hierarchy or hand out broad permissions. So, Salesforce follows a layered approach to security. First, there are profiles and permission sets. These control what users can do, such as create, edit, delete, etc. Then there's organization-wide defaults, or OWD. These control what users can see by setting the baseline level of access to records. The role hierarchy in Salesforce works like an organizational chart. It lets users higher up the hierarchy see, edit, and report on records owned by the people below them. In other words, it helps extend record access beyond what's defined by your organizational-wide defaults. Sharing rules come next. They extend access beyond what users automatically inherit from OWDs and the role hierarchy. Using restriction rules, you can apply filters to determine which child records a user should be able to see, using user permission criteria combined with record criteria. Last but not least, manual sharing enables a user to grant access to another user on a single record. Simply put, sharing rules open up access. They can never be used to restrict it. They let you automatically share records with users based on who owns them or specific record criteria. You can use sharing rules for any object whose org-wide default is set to private or public read only. Salesforce has two main types of sharing rules: owner-based and criteria-based. Owner-based sharing rules share records based on who owns them. For example, sharing all accounts owned by users in the sales role with the customer success team. This type is great for team-based collaboration when ownership itself is the key differentiator. Criteria-based sharing rules share records based on record values instead of ownership. For example, sharing all cases where the type equals complaint with the escalations team. Criteria-based sharing rules are more flexible and dynamic because they automatically update as records meet or stop meeting the criteria. Sharing rules are perfect when you need to grant access laterally across roles or teams, when you want to automate record visibility or groups that collaborate frequently, or when you want to open up access without changing the role structure. Here's a scenario. Your organization is divided into East and West sales regions. Each region's manager needs to see both their own team's accounts and those of the other region for coverage. The solution? Create an owner-based sharing rule that shares accounts owned by the East region role with the West region role, and vice versa. The benefit? Managers get visibility into each other's regional data without exposing all records company-wide. So, let's now walk through the setup of sharing rules. Step 1. Review your OWD settings. Navigate to Setup, Security, then Sharing Settings. Before creating a rule, confirm that the object's OWD is set to private or public read only. Otherwise, sharing rules won't make any difference. Step 2. Choose the object. On the Sharing Settings page, scroll down until you reach the Sharing Rules section. These are displayed per object. Find the object you want to add a sharing rule to, for example, account, opportunity, or case, and click New. Step 3. Add a label and description. A good sharing rule label should be clear, specific, and concise, describing what is being shared and with whom. Best practice would be to use title case and avoid special characters. Step 4. Select the rule type. You'll see the two options from earlier, owner-based and criteria-based. Choose the one that matches your scenario. In this example, I want to share all opportunities owned by the North American sales team with the CFO and their team. To do this, I selected based on record owner as the rule type and chose role and internal subordinates of the VP North American sales. This setting ensures that any opportunities owned by the VP North American sales or anyone reporting to them are shared with the CFO's team. Step 5. Define who to share with. You can share records with public groups, roles and subordinates, territories and subordinates. If you plan to share with a public group, set it up before creating your sharing rule by going into Setup, into Users, and Public Groups. To share with the finance team, I selected role and internal subordinates of the CFO. This ensures that all opportunities are shared with the CFO and everyone in their reporting hierarchy. Step 6. Choose the level of access. Decide whether the users should have read-only access or read and write access. However, remember that even if you grant read-write access via sharing rule, the user must still have an edit permission on the object via their profile or permission set. Since the finance team only needs to view the opportunities owned by the North American sales team, I select read-only access. Step 7. Save and layer process. Once saved, Salesforce will recalculate record access. This might take a few minutes, especially in large orgs. You'll receive an email once the recalculation completes. Now that you know how to set up sharing rules, here are some best practices we recommend you follow. Keep it simple. Avoid complex sharing layers. Start with OWDs and the role hierarchy, then add necessary sharing rules. Use public groups. Share with public groups instead of creating multiple rules for individual roles. Watch out for view all and modify all. These profile permissions override sharing rules and grant full access. Use them cautiously. Monitor rule counts. Salesforce limits are 300 total and 50 criteria based per object. For performance, aim for under 100 ownership-based and 50 criteria-based rules per object. Document your sharing model. Maintain documentation with role hierarchy diagrams, OWDs, and sharing rules for easier maintenance. Great. So now what do you do if you come across some common facts? Well, always keep in mind that sharing rules expand access, never restrict it. You can define up to 300 rules per object, maximum 50 criteria-based if available. Also, criteria-based rules cannot use lookups, encrypted formulas, or derived fields. When multiple rules apply, the user gets the most permissive access. You cannot restrict already granted access. For owner/group roles, only sharing access can be edited. Other criteria-based rules allow editing both criteria and access. To change the share with setting, you must delete and recreate the rule. Deleting a rule automatically removes its provided access. Sharing one record, e.g. opportunity case contact, may also share related records, for example, account. All right, we're nearly there, we promise. Before we finish up and you can create all the sharing rules your heart desires, let's take a second to explore some common issues you might encounter and how to troubleshoot them. Here's an issue. A user can't edit a record, even though the sharing rules grant read and write. How to check it? Ensure the user's profile has edit permissions on the object. Sharing rules don't grant object permissions. Sharing rule changes aren't showing up immediately. Wait for the recalculation to complete. For large data sets, Salesforce may queue the process and notify you via email. Salesforce sharing rules automatically grant record access based on user or field value, fostering collaboration without complex role hierarchies or security risks. Used thoughtfully with org-wide defaults, roles, profiles, and permission sets, they create a flexible, scalable foundation for data visibility. Now go forth and create your own, and make sure you subscribe for more content just like this.